the three of us are gathered here today um, because there's a misconception around, and I think this is only truer with the advent and unmitigated rollout of AI, that posting to social is something you can knock out in like 5 to 10 minutes, right? Like a post is, you're going to be able to get a post out. You can prompt engineer it. Frankly, that's going to take you longer than the post to a lot of people's thinking. And either Chat GPT or you or your marketing partner, within 10, 15 minutes is going to have your next post up and ready to go. And the three of us have had a very different experience in terms of content creation. And we know that we're not alone. And so we wanted to start doing a video series around misconceptions that people have about content creators, content marketers, and the work that we do, so that we can help inform you and give you a clearer understanding of what it is you're actually buying when you hire us, which I think often is pegged to the deliverables and not all of the expertise, skill, and experience that goes into producing those deliverables, whether we're using AI as a supportive tool or not. And so that's what we're talking about today.
Sounds great. Sounds perfect. So Nikki, you were super excited to share your story. So why don't you go ahead and go first?
So the prompt engineering is a real thing, right? I have a prompt that I've, over time, it changes as you go on, as you learn little things. It is over now a half a page long in Word at 11 point. So, or 11 size font. So it's a long prompt. But I've crafted it in a way because I needed to spit out this certain tone and this persona. And last night, this is like AI aside. I've done a lot of research on a particular topic for a client. And this is stats that I found myself through research. But when I went back to craft a simple, easy LinkedIn post, I needed something to back that up, those facts that I had read, but I needed an actual, like an article say, a recent study by Bank of America, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, great. So then when I try and go find that study, and I found it, but I didn't find where they pulled the stat from. So I was like, okay, if it was just me, fine. But this is for an advisor, and compliance is going to need this stat source. So I spent a lot of time and I was like, well, I didn't find that stat. So I found this other one. So scrapped that whole post and rewrote it. I was like, no big deal. Cut to me like 2.5 hours later, it's 10:45 p.m. And all of this information, this is no AI included at all. This is stuff I have found on the internet, but I can't find the actual source of the stat at all, anywhere. And I was just so frustrated because just like ChatGPT makes up stats, so does Google, and so do 100 other people, and they'll pull it out of thin air. And if I can't find at least 2 sources to back up something, I'm going to scrap it. And I'm not going to put one of my clients in a bad spot, let alone myself. And I was just so frustrated. And I was like, I remember sitting there thinking at 10:45, I'm exhausted. And I'm like, people don't realize everything it goes to take to make these posts. There's so much research, and I love research. If someone could pay me full-time just to research, I'm done. I'm easy, like that's fine. But there's so much research that goes into it. And then turning that horrible, boring research into a well-crafted LinkedIn post, not even Twitter, not TikTok, not like into a LinkedIn post, because LinkedIn is probably going through menopause right now too. So turn it into that. And I was just like, there's a lot that goes on behind this. One of my favorite people to follow on Twitter, she's a content creator, not in finance at all, just like a general content creator in the universe. She was talking that still to this day, for her to craft a thread, which she only does once a week because she wants it to be so thoughtfully made, it's 2.5 hours. And she's like, I wish more people knew this. She's like, I've been writing my whole life and it still takes me this amount of time. And some people can whip it out real fast. That's great. That's awesome. And it works really great. But some people need more than 5 minutes. Like, it's just, there's just, we see the tip of the iceberg and we just don't know all the stuff that's going on down here. And I think, Olivia, I think were you talking about it?
Yeah, I have a post like that. Hold on,
Yeah.
let's see what it says, because there's all these, and actually, I didn't even make that post, so I can't even tell you how long it took. I could ask my girl who made it for me, because you know, that's another thing, is it takes so long, I can't even do all of my own stuff.
Yeah.
So if I did, I wouldn't have time to do anything else.
No, we wouldn't have time. There's a reason why I'm staying up till 10:45 or midnight, because there's so much that has to get done. And it's like when a plumber comes out to the house and they fix a problem within 5 minutes, they're like, that'll be $750. And I used $750 because that recently happened. And I was like, well, I could have done that myself. But no, I couldn't have, because I didn't have all that years of experience. So I'm paying him for all of his knowledge and expertise and years of experience.
So yeah, so speaking of it, let's run it back real quick, because I always like to tell this story. I do not have a background in finance. I have a background in English literature. So when someone said to me, you should write in finance, I was like, are you freaking kidding me? That sounds like a death sentence. But okay, they need help. I could use some extra income. Let's try this out. The first real piece I ever wrote was how to create your retirement paycheck. I don't know shit about retirement. I don't know shit about creating a paycheck from your resources. I don't know about anything about an IRA, 401k, or BB. You know, I don't know anything about any of this stuff. It took me maybe 8 hours to write this, because I had to learn everything I was writing about. Flash forward to today, I could write you a piece about creating a retirement paycheck in probably an hour. Yeah. Because I've done it so many times now. Now I know this information like the back of my hand. But okay, so let's take that information that I could probably reproduce that article in about an hour after 5 years of doing this. It still takes me about an hour to write a LinkedIn post. Why? Because it's not just putting words on a paper. It's using all of the best practices that come with, you know, having a great hook so that people actually want to read it. Having some meat in there that people don't go, shit, I want a time refund on that. That was crap. Why did I scroll through? Doing the research that it takes to get the stat, or making sure there's enough white space, making sure that you have not put too many words in the post. I mean, from start to finish, any given day that I'm writing a LinkedIn post for myself, not even for somebody else, me, who I know better than anybody, my business that I know better than anybody, it's going to take 20 to 30 minutes to think about it, if not more, maybe days. Maybe I'm thinking about it for days ahead of time, and 30 or 40 minutes to draft the copy. And that's not even if I have a picture to go with it. If I gotta do a picture, okay, well, now I gotta make a picture. So it's not an easy process. And so then you say, okay, well, what does it look like when you write for a client? So let's take an example. I was working with a client recently. We did a 1 hour Zoom, went over the questionnaire that I had him fill out. He wanted to just start with 10 posts. It's not something I normally do, but he was a nice connection on LinkedIn and I wanted to help him out. 10 posts took me the better part of my morning. It was lunchtime before I was done. So it's not a quick and easy process. It's very time consuming. And so Derek, what does your process look like?
Well, I was going to say, and these are stories coming from 3 people who have been training on generative AI since March of this year. So all of us are familiar with that quote unquote time-saving technology. And each of us, to one degree or another, takes advantage of that assistance at times. Even then, right? And for those of you who are listening, who have had experience, for those of you who are advocates of ChatGPT, have folded it into your process, even then, you are keenly aware of the fact that this at best is getting you a working draft, right? Generally speaking, even with a prompt as detailed, Nikki, as the one that you've outlined for us, you're still having to go in and do all of that work. I see our work as content creators shifting as guardrails get put on AI, as it becomes more tool specific, right? Because ChatGPT, GPT-4 and Bing, these are such open-ended utilizations of that tool. I think that that's one of the challenges that we face as this becomes more particularized, as we set specific tasks and create firewalls around it so it doesn't hallucinate on the job. We're still going to be contending, even as it advances and continues to train, we're still going to have to personalize that. We're still going to have to go in and do all of the finessing that's required, whether we're starting from scratch or whether we're starting with a draft provided by a client or provided by generative AI. And so I don't share the sense of doom and gloom that so many people have been broadcasting over the course of the past few months. I don't think content creation disappears, and I don't think the machines are running the show at any point. I think that it is going to become much more intuitive, and I think more and more of us are going to lean on it for specific tasks. But in terms of crafting the type of content that actually is going to engage your ideal client, you're still going to need somebody who has the skill and the experience, because, and here's the broken record you both know well, people connect with people being people. And so that's the area in which all of this expertise that you two have been sharing continues to come into play. For me, I again, I have always valued and appreciated time, space, and quiet. Because that's the place, for me at least, in which ideation occurs, right? I had the great good fortune just this morning to go out and walk the Henry Hudson Trail here in Highlands, New Jersey. Got to look out over the bay at the Manhattan skyline through the morning haze, and came back with a fresh perspective, new ideas, some posts for LinkedIn in mind that I'm starting to play around with. I find myself in a similar situation. Quite often, if I'm being honest, it's a days-long process for me. And that includes repurposing, right? I think all of us understand the value of keeping a swipe file, even if they're ideas, even if they're little video or audio notes that we're taking while we're out and about in the world, and have that little aha moment. The aha moments don't happen like that. They take time to nurture. So my experience is very similar with you. Wherever I'm starting from, it's usually a period of ideation, and I'm with you. It's usually taking, for me, when I'm posting consistently in the morning. I'm usually writing in the morning, even if I'm going back and repurposing content. It's usually taking me to get from 0 to done about 45 minutes. 60 minutes. And that does include capturing a photo or matching a photo, creating a graphic, right? A pull quote, for instance. If I'm using a photograph, because you put a selfie on it and the algorithm loves you, you're writing the alt text. That's taking time. I'm creating a swipe file for that as well. So even with the efficiencies that are built into the system, whether it's a system you yourself have developed or whether it's AI assisted, there's still so much effort. And there's so much, at its best, what we do is an artisanal craft. And I think that I think we lose sight of the compelling component of content when we lose sight of the fact that that's what's really drawing people. Right? It's that artisanal quality. It's not cranking up the volume. It's not cranking out more content. It's doing it with intent. It's doing strategically. And It's appealing to the conversations that you're entering into. And in order to get to those conversations, you got to listen. And listening takes time. So I just, it's all of the lead up, and it's everything behind the curtain that prospective clients should be aware of. That's what you're paying for. That's the value added that you're getting. Yeah, you're getting really high quality deliverables. You're getting that content strategy and implementation. But boy, howdy, there's so much thought and work that goes into producing that content. And if it seems like your kid could do it, there's even more work there than you think, right?
It's just like you always said, you want the copy to read so smoothly and carry the customer along that they don't even know how they got there once they got there. It's like being in the Wizard of Oz in the what are they? The poppies and the poppies, right?
Oh,
Just
yeah.
amnesia. How did I get here? It was so effortless. And that's, you know, I always, I wrote about this recently, that sometimes I have clients who will talk to me on Zoom, and I will record it and I'll use that to inform our content or send it to the writer and the team who's going to be doing that work. And what I said is, I'm sure that they think, well, why doesn't she just start working on it right away? And that's because I need time to almost incubate your ideas, because they are raw when I get them. And I'm supposed to be turning them into something of quality. I'm not just going to put it in and turn it out. It becomes a part of me. Those ideas interact with my day. They interact with the other connections I have with other people. They interact with the other posts that I see out in the world. And I find the best way to turn that into publishable content. And it takes time. It occupies my life outside of the moments I'm at the desk doing it. It occupies my life. I'm thinking about your content when I'm exercising, when I'm in the shower, when I'm playing with my kids. Your content becomes a part of me until I give it back to you and you push it out into the world like a baby.
Yeah, 100%. I'm thinking about my clients' content 1,000 times more than I'm thinking about my own. I'm like, how can I make this better? How can I use it better in their tone of voice? What can we try different? It's just freaking nonstop.
It is.
And one of the other things, I think that this will segue into a future installment, but I think that that's one of the other questions that we face. And I think it's a legitimate question. How do you wind up, right? And again, I think it's a conversation for another day, but how do you wind up writing authentically in someone else's voice, right? And I think that it seems impossible. It totally seems counterintuitive, but we do that all day long. And one of the reasons we're able to do that, again, is we're listening and we're living it, right? Exceptional content not only requires an exceptional team, but it requires this level of lived experience. So that, Olivia, as you say, it not only do you put in the reps so that you know the material itself well enough to be able to frame a post or a blog article much more efficiently than before, but you also have that angle. You also know exactly what the pain point is that you need to address. You know exactly how to elevate the CTA so that it's not just something tacked on the end, but it compels your prospect to reach out to you so that they're not showing up in a position where you have to do any selling. They're already there ready to book with you, right? And to get from zero to that point requires not only skill, but effort, attention, and I think what the three of us are saying is a tremendous sense of empathy and dedication, right? I know that advisors know this. They're living their clients' lives and futures. And I think you both said it incredibly well. We're doing the same thing, right? This, as much as we try to separate it, and as much as we need, all of us, constructive boundaries, this is an extremely personal experience for us. And I think that shows in all of the work that I see from both of you on LinkedIn and out in the world when I'm aware that you're the writer of the content. And I think you can see that and experience that in really effectively written and crafted content.